like greater photosynthesis. Oh, but heard that. And we're gonna talk about the world transitions through the sky, the foundations and floating around and stuff like that, and the real goddamn mama, the container you in. And we're gonna break it down how the mind get developed and things of that nature. And you might could take that red road, dark road, two sides, straight path, straight and narrow, equilibrium, center road. That's the only path I know and things of that nature. You get caught on this side, you get caught on this side. They what they call it 8, 9, 6, 7, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm confused. That's all you got to do. I'm retarded. You know what I'm saying? I'm indecisive. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little lost. They replace words so things can be a lot more simple because y'all start doing stuff, doing other stuff. What is this? What is this? Start doing all kind of stuff to the point that it's self-projection. Whatever it meant, you should have did it first. You should have been like the example for us to be like, yeah, that's how I look when you do it. So I know what not to do. You know what I'm saying? Not you trying to capitalize off of it. You trying to colonize whatever y'all into, and y'all. You trying to make some money. You trying to go viral. Trying to go viral like a crate challenge. No, it just means I'm LD. You know what I'm saying? That's what it means. It don't mean nothing else. Y'all start attaching numbers, letters, symbols to y'all retardation and stuff like that. No, it's just retarded. That's it. Because guess what? When I'm decisive, that's it. It's straight. I'm sure about what I want. It don't do this. And I forget what I want in life and stuff like that. I'll go straight forward. No, it's straight. It's direct. You know what I'm saying? It's not confusion. You know what I'm saying? It ain't which way did he go? Which way did he go? You know what I'm saying? It ain't good cop, bad cop. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no angel, devil. You know what I'm saying? Ain't none of that. It's just get out my way. I know what I'm doing. You know, that's it. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? That's that a lot of y'all be lost in all kind of weird confusions and stuff like that, and then you slap a number on it, you slap a word, you slap a description on it and stuff like that. No, you just a degenerate, and then we good to go. Once we start there, you'll start becoming a little better in your life and be like, yeah, I might have been lost in something retarded or whatever. And we're gonna talk about the mind being developed. You don't gotta be an Aries, you don't gotta be a Taurus, you ain't gotta be a Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, or Pisces to be able to understand where those energies may have accumulated from. And you might just came from an accumulation of that bubble. And then for the most part, you got certain traits where those neurons be playing out in areas you don't be paying attention to because you ain't, you ain't a spiritual sensei. If you was a spiritual sensei, you'll be sensitive to the senses. And there's a lot of senses that they don't teach you that we can slap that word on it. Senses, you know, and it might have to be a lot of different meanings and stuff like that we start to accumulate, but each one teach one, and we can all start to build this esoteric and physical foundation of new education, or however the case may be, because we're in a new enlightenment age. You know what I'm saying? So old enlightenments and stuff like that have became old and outdated from everybody concept and everybody situation due to the fact of what we are experiencing now and what we need to feel self-protected and spiritually protected and mentally protected and physically and all in today's time. You know what I'm saying? It ain't the same as different times or for different species or whatever the case may be. For a butterfly to be once upon a time making a cocoon, if that's what it do, or a caterpillar or however. You know what I'm saying? And however the situation or geographical location and how each species interact with each other and that resistance energy to develop mental resistance, mental toughness, condense into more sufficient organs. And then we got what y'all calling evolution or whatever the case, but it's just an accumulation based upon mechanisms what we're getting ready to get into that start off with the mind. And for the most part, when we start to talk about the mother of the world or whatever the case, even if you into astrology, you know, there's broader aspects other than what you may have learned and other alternative aspects from different people, cultures and things of that nature, which you're getting ready to hear now, from why you may even consider, even from the Australian astrology aspect and things of that nature coming on the Western Hemisphere and considering the moon being exalted in Taurus and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? And the moon cycle and that being the sign right after the sun and the sun being exalted in Aries and what that actually mean based upon position in astronomy, distance, and location and things of that nature. So, you know, there's a resonance with that and there's a connection to it, but you'll be able to add more meaning to it also if you are sensitive to the senses. And then when I say add, that means you're adding a puzzle piece to the whole frame. And that's what we hear. So that's what we're supposed to do. And anytime a person feels doubt, discouraged, unmotivated, is because they're not in that space that's directed towards whatever expertise or productive energy that they want to go towards anyway. So when a person lack that, they lack the motivation ability, that spark to be able to go for what they're even in distant from, to spark that form of, I need to go for that thing and I feel like I'm resistant towards it. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times we just have to get into ourselves and know that we're presenting something, not something you have to esoterically people please, even please a characteristic or a stereotype for you to, go through a door that may be successful or something that's going into your favor. So a lot of individuals need to understand that too, because it's so often we see regular things out there and what become traditional way of doing it, and based upon you lacking some of those attributes, lacking some of that support, lacking some of that, maybe the material aspect of it, maybe the money aspect, maybe even someone may have moved their elbow a certain way. So you think, well, since I can't jump from a free throw line to do a dunk, I don't even want to try out basketball itself, or whatever the case may be. Not knowing somebody probably had the Monster juice or whatever the case may be, like on Monster Jam, or the movie Michael Jordan played in, Space Jam. They might have had some Monster juice or whatever, or it might have been a scripted wrestling basketball game that day or whatever. You thought that person was this dope. Everybody else was just paid to lose that day. So you know what I'm saying? It'd be a lot of things. If you ain't behind closed doors, you would develop what Walt Disney show us and only want us to know. Shout out to Walt Disney. We just talk about social norms as a general term. And for the most part, you just take that to suggest what your biases and what your motivation going to be about or not. And you could be motivated for the wrong things and get unmotivated based upon what you think of things appear to be. And for the most part, you let life get the best of you. So make sure you're not in that type of space or that energy, because for the most part, like I said, it's all about what we're presenting. It's all about what you present. And what you present, you have to look at it like, oh, that's my puzzle piece. You know what I'm saying? And but not nobody disrespect that. And for the most part, that play out in a lot of forms that we need to come up with new ways to conduct in today's time. Stuff like intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like expression. When you got online and money not even really being that much physical anymore because it's getting all technology and stuff like that, what you think that's going to be back to support it on? Not gold. You know what I'm saying? Intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? So that's the first thing you need to be kind of thinking about, being aware about, and participating in when it comes to anything that accumulate only from that starting point. Without that starting point, you ain't got to worry about all that other stuff that you gonna eventually be frustrated about anyway, just because of the energy I was just talking about. And then for the most part, since you lack it, then for the most part, you just become a hater or a watcher at a distance, or a person who just self-doubt yourself that you can't be in a position that you probably well can. You know what I'm saying? You just not understanding. You supposed to present that new angle. You supposed to present that new carving piece of the goddamn puzzle or whatever. And the more that you don't give that importance, you too busy looking at other people's puzzle piece. And just because you don't know how or what they did for it to fit and who they know, and a lot of times, 90% of the time, it ain't what you know how to do, is who you know. So a lot of times, just based off that, you might over exaggerate that it ain't got nothing to do with that and just be looking from a distance. Well, what about my frog? I don't see it in that position. So yeah, the world hate me. Yeah, the world hate. Then you start manifesting that energy in your actual life that show you that, yeah, maybe some do hate you, but you're creating that. You need to understand that. You know what I'm saying? You're only going to look at it like this. You could be a person who into sports, and then you could be around a person who not in the sports, or whatever the case may be. Since it ain't got nothing to do with your negative biases or whatever, you're not going to see it in the same light. Yet I'm trying to teach you to broaden your spiritual awareness. We be in a certain space from an equilibrium perspective, and we just dive on the side of it. And for the most part, if we don't understand that and things of that nature, we'll be playing things out that's playing out in all of our areas in life, but we don't see it that way until we make a mistake. And then sometimes we still don't see it that way. And then we never resolve the internal issues. We never resolve what's actually going on and why we keep going in these situations. I had a point too, but y'all get what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times you just, it'll be this type of area where you got an insecurity and you building it up and things of that nature. Then it may play out in another area that ain't even got nothing to do with why you should even have that insecurity, and you probably got plenty talents to go through fluidly in that area, or to have that relationship run through fluidly, but yet you're developing what you think, and then what's familiar there, then you start to compartmentalize with that, and whatever you lack, you over exaggerate and cry something happening to you, or cry the universe is wrong or something like that, and you don't even know if that's actually the point because you're too busy looking at other people's puzzle piece. So pay more attention to your puzzle piece so you feel better about yourself, even if it's not fitting at the moment, aka may not be relatable, may not be in sync, may not have a lot of support, may not be, you know what I'm saying, it may not just be in that position yet. That's not for you to size up how much motivation you're gonna have for something that you're developing on your own time anyway. You're not even really supposed to expect anybody else who's in that same position spiritually, mentally, and physically to be doing that. So if you're sizing up the whole thing you're coming up with on your own time, and you're sizing up to justify, you're only going to present it if it get the reciprocation from other people that spiritually we all supposed to give people that grace of they think about themselves just as much as you think about yourself. But you only care about what your spirit is creating to get that attention, and you only can get attention from other spirits that separate from themselves at the moment if it's something interesting enough, right? And then for the most part, you don't know how to create yourself. You only know how to create what you think others will like from you, or what you think others are already accepting. You was paying too much attention to other people's puzzle piece. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes it's just puzzle pieces that fit like O.J. Simpson, Michael Jackson glove that he hid and somehow still was not guilty, however the case may be. But at the same time, right? You don't know what's going on. That's why I keep making an example. You know what I'm saying? Somebody might have got paid to lose that football game. You know what I'm saying? Somebody and then make the other person look good, and then the person that look good that you're counterpartmentalizing with, like, well, I don't got that trait in that white collar, blue collar business or that sport or whatever the case may be. Here you go, get ready to go broke also because you goddamn Instagram hustling. Instagram here and pocket watching and stuff, and Instagram ear hustling and stuff, and eyeballing. So, AKA, you don't know that celebrity rented that car and probably got it for free. Probably didn't even have to rent it. Probably was a good marketing deal for a person just like you to go broke. You know what I'm saying? To go get it. So you got to understand it's a lot of things be going on and stuff like that. But when you develop your own puzzle piece, you'll find your own way on the goddamn platform. You know what I'm saying? This global universal game that y'all want to call it, because it ain't no game. This is really life. When you look at it like a game, you only play games on yourself because it's all projection. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand it. And anytime a game get outdated, it doesn't matter if you did it positive or negative. It doesn't gain attraction. The light is dull. Some other things is getting ready to manifest, or other things is getting attention at the moment. So you're not even going to get the attraction, the reciprocation to duplicate off of it, or the resistant energy to try to fight for it. It's something that's going into a non-existent field or a non-care field. The life form in it is too small. Not enough spirits is adding the light to that pocket that all other spirits possibly could be in to make it a big thing that everybody pay attention to it in the mental world and it condense in the physical world as some physical circumstance or situation that we have to start to see, even if it ain't dealing with nothing physical. It might be a broad characteristic that a grouping of people start to live up under, like an ideology or however the case it may be. You see what I'm saying? But we'll be able to kind of compartmentalize if these things is on a positive or a negative end. Because if it ain't in sync, if it ain't relatable, it ain't got nothing to do with God, universe, transitional world, whatever you want to call it, or whatever the case may be. It ain't got nothing to do with it. And you're just trying to make up something that's what your mind is. Call your mind that then. Don't try to blame that on everybody else. You know what I'm saying? If it's relatable, if it's in sync, even if it's distance and degrees away, where there's enough room for disagreement, it will be more or higher on a percentage scale of agree to disagree, and way higher on a percentage scale of we not harming each other either. You know what I'm saying? In some way, shape, or form. So ain't no excuse when you like following God. You know what I'm saying? The real, I don't know what everybody else be following today's time, but they just be in their own mind, and they mind lead them into the physical world, and it don't be having nothing to do with God or nothing. It got something to do with, in your mind, you created an idea that's a light, and you want attention for it. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you constructed it to be, whatever language, whatever meaning you slap behind it, whatever the case may be, you're feeding. You a spirit that lacks spark and you're feeding at the moment. And a lot of spirits come up with creative ways to not mind their business. A lot of spirits come up with creative ways to be in other people's spaces. A lot of spirits come up with a lot of creative ways to just be degenerate. And that's when you know there's a demon somewhere inside of that body and that mind, that spirit, inhale, feeding. Thirsty as hell, dehydrated, need some water. Someone else's emotional attraction. You know, and if you're feeling good at the moment and you're around a demon, you ain't gonna feel good that long because they're gonna force you to be in the space that they in. Hell, don't let no demon drag you down. I seen that movie, Drag Me to Hell. Good movie, good movie. But that was like the ending times of director though. That's like the ending times. After that, man, I don't know what y'all doing, and y'all done turned the new Mortal Kombat into a Me Too feminist movement movie and stuff like that. And oh man, I'm trying to be Nightwolf and stuff. I'm thinking right now, y'all gotta do a whole reboot. No, I don't want to see a part 3. You destroyed part 1, so it was impossible for part 2 to be. Let's get to this live stream. Happy Mother's Day. Now, look, check this out. When we start to talk about the energies and the transitions and how the mind get condensed and become the organs and the physical reality and things of that nature. But we're going to talk about it from an esoteric perspective, so you can kind of put yourself in this position and see that, okay, this is the what, but how you do it and how you see it is still inevitable. You got to start on this ground basis. Now, I want you to broaden your mind a little bit of things of that nature and separate yourself from your egos and your biases, which ultimately become humanity. Then separate outside of that, so you know you don't start thinking about fish, bugs, and animals and things of that nature, and kind of think about all species from a particular position of everybody's first body become a mind, right? So the first body is a mind. Now, for you to have that ability, you're already doing something that did that first. So when we come at a first instant, right, this is what we're getting ready to get into as far as even when we talk about the sun and the moon, but we're talking about these positions in the sky. Right? So when we start to talk about Mother's Day, what we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Mother. But where did that energy come from itself? Right? Container, womb, the ability to bring something here. Now, I know a lot of y'all may have over exaggerated on the meanings of these things because y'all don't even know a lot of spiders don't even give birth like that and stuff. There's a lot of feminine things in the world that doesn't necessarily is a particular to human, right? But we have to understand how a womb is created in the first place. When you have a spark or you have an idea of something, right? Then once you add multiple things around it, things that's pertaining to it. So it's in the same environment, same spiritual location, but different positions, right? So that'd be awarenesses at this point. But if you're doing something physically, right, and you're trying to build something in a certain position, right, then you need the left wing, right wing, front wing, ceiling, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, foundation. And now it's ultimately a container, right? But it's in that same original spot, not just all over the place. So when we start to talk about within the mind or whatever, or the first transitions, the first moon or whatever, that's just looking at different ideas as a collection, and it becomes something that you're within, and you can see multiple sides of it. Now, when you spread out and you're sensitive to the senses, you know how to separate from the physical, and you know that your spirit, being the observer, ain't doing that with nothing else but your mind. So you observing this idea, that's a side of things. This perception, that's a side of things, right? Then when you collect all these things, they get a little deeper, right? So for the most part, that turn into a mood. Then that mood shift, that's what feelings and emotions is. You're feeling the heaviness of the collection of all the lightness, which will be ideas, awarenesses, thought forms. And when you collide them, that's sex. Joining of two or multiple energies create multiple that's feminine. That's what sex is, the joining of multiple or create another energy. So it becomes something in itself. The joining of one or multiple energies creates something new or something in itself. So it has multiple sides, has velocity, volume, mass, the different representations, different angles and things of that nature, yet in one position. So that's what we're talking about, the womb. So the mind is something that your spirit is inside of, and the mind is like a mechanism that condense and become the physical representation. But before we even get into that, I just want to help y'all understand. So when you're separating from the physical, you're still seeing everything that happened in the physical. You're just lessening the layers, so you're experiencing it from a different angle, the lighter realm of reality, not the heavy realm of reality. Once we're already doing it physically, you're starting to see the essence that we lack the words for. And this is where hypotheticals and parables come from, relating physical terms and things we can point to things that we can't point to, but it comes into qualities of what we call trying to understand, trying to explain, science, spirituality, parables, hypotheticals, philosophy. You know what I'm saying? This is where these type of terms come from, trying to relate what we may not have words for to describe something that we can give a word to that's right in front of us. Yet we know there's a process going on that we still don't have the word to, and we know that we only could ground it based upon seeing the accumulation of it. AKA, this is why a lot of y'all starting points sometimes be wrong when you start in the physical, because you already here not knowing the process of things. So this is where a lot of sometimes atheists and scientists may say this is only one life, and they all your thoughts come from your brain, not your brain processing thoughts. And that's where they get faulty in their reasoning, and always in some black and white energy. It has to be this or that. It has to be A or B. You know what I'm saying? And no, A transition to B, one transition to two. So you have to, and if that's larger on a percentage scale of how you see that play out in existence and other realities, then it's smaller on a percentage scale of dichotomy. So there may be certain areas we're adding dichotomies to, especially in science, that don't deserve dichotomies and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? That's one of the dumb reasons we got flat earthers and stuff like that now. You know what I'm saying? That dichotomy energy, that separation energy that ain't got nothing to do with the internal energy of how God taught us to separate. So you're separating, but you're living backwards, starting from the physical world first. So you only know how to separate from the physical world. So to learn the physical world, you only know how to separate, dissect, study, kill, murder, antagonize, poke at it. You know what I'm saying? And we get hurt a lot of times being involved in that, because we stumble across poison ivy. We stumble across, which these are things that we don't have to be fools first, and we understand life. And then for an example, we see certain colors and shades. If something is too light, but it's growing around fruit and stuff like that, that hasn't became ripe, right? And it's something that don't become right, but it's spring and summertime, that's a nightshade berry or whatever the case may be. So it's on a different time. If it's on a nighttime, you're supposed to understand that. So you'll be more wise, or the medicine man or the medicine woman, to tell someone else that might not be safe to eat or whatever the case, or we might could use that for something else, illness or rashes or whatever the case may be, but not consumption in that type of manner. Maybe break it down as a juice or whatever, and make it as a tea, so the extraction is just enough, and just enough water there that whatever needs to be killed, like little parasites and things of that nature, can be eradicated, but not the full consumption of this nightshade berry that end up being poisonous or whatever. So it's just enough poison mixed with a whole bunch of other stuff that kill the bacteria but not kill you or whatever. And a lot of times that take studying nature, this being on a different time, so it got a different color shade, so this must grow more at night during spring and summertime. So, and then let's see how this bug may interact with it and things of that nature. All that takes sitting down somewhere, not being distracted because you know your bills is next week. Sitting down somewhere, not being distracted because your stomach hurting, and new clothes got to be on your back, or kids got to get ready to go to school, and you got kids, so you got to make sure they ain't got no holes in their sneakers and stuff like little stuff like this. This is the smallest things that we get into with Walt Disney taught us to get us distracted, take us away from the actuality of it's normal things that we supposed to know. It's all in everybody's backyard. You know what I'm saying? And we all be lacking this knowledge the more we get too invested into handicaps and crutches and living backwards and things of that nature. So we would be perishing in the way that is actually described, not in ways that you think, well, I ain't dying, or God ain't striking me with lightning right now, so I must don't lack knowledge because I'm a PhD. Y'all said rest in peace, Captain Samuel. It ain't got nothing to do with that. Nothing, you is perishing, because I guarantee no matter what good position Walt Disney taught you to get in, shout out to Walt Disney, the social norms or whatever, I bet you lack of street smarts, you get taken advantage of way faster than someone who's not in your position, but they'll be able to see from a distance how you are playing out foolish roles. You know what I'm saying? And allowing people to get into certain areas that the average individual who got a little bit of smarts in that position wouldn't allow. You know what I'm saying? Or wouldn't be so many of y'all on VH1. Zeus Network. DJ Glad. Oh, no. All right, but look, check this out. Let's get into the mind transitions and stuff like that, right? Now, when we start talking about spring, summer, fall, winter, right? Now, we're just actually kind of compartmentalizing things, but when you start to understand the real senses of stuff and separate your own biases so you can start to see how things plan out in different areas, right? You know, the true beginning of the year is starting off when things spring along. And you know it's a cycle, it's not linear, because we see it happening again. So we see the same thing in a different way. So it's the what, same thing, the mechanism, but the how is different. You know what I'm saying? How that tree grew last year may grow a little different next year. May have crab apples on it. I don't even think crab apples even exist no more with New Worldia in America. How much goddamn it farming then became capitalized and colonized. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, this understanding the seasons and the transitions or whatever the case may be, right, at each position and what's the creation of the world before even if humans even existed, we'll still see this. Well, we won't see it. Y'all humans won't see it, but it'll still be in a mechanism. So by you being a human and being able to see it, you in a compilation of this. So when we get into Aries season or the beginning of the year, right, this is the first awareness or first spark, the first intent. So if you could separate that from the all possibilities and what make all possibilities possible, you have your own particular of that. So that's the what, the universe, God, all possibilities. Now the how comes you. You know what I'm saying? Now how you did it after the fact, after it's already an ability. You see what I'm saying? Now after it's already an ability, how you do your first spark and awareness. Just like if you was born in physical reality, and you got siblings, just because you was the second born or the third born or the fourth born or whatever the case may be, that was your first time of being born, not the first time of your older sibling, not the first time of the sibling that came after you. You know what I'm saying? So even though you was born second or third, that was your first time. You was the first third child. There won't be another third child. There won't be another second child. See what I'm saying? Unless it's triplets, and then not even in that case, because it depends on the amount of seconds of which one came out of the other one. Y'all ain't coming out at the same time unless your mama just some goddamn whoop. Happy Mother's Day. But for the most part, when you start to think about the first spark, you can look at that as the first seed or the first intent. Now, as we think about accumulation and things of that nature, right? When you become aware, the thing that you are aware of as a spirit created from the inside out by default is the thing you inside of. And when we start to think about internal energy, that breaks us into the first container or the first concealment or the first womb. And even in astrology, the moon is exalted in Taurus. But for the most part, the first reactionary energy. And what are you reacting to? In this instant, yourself. So in the sky, even before you was here, this was a trait. This is an ability you have. But for the most part, this is how the human and the animal can be able to counterpartmentalize it. I mean, can be able to counterpartmentalize it by things like astrology or, you know, other attributes and stuff like that. But for the most part, or astronomy and timing and position, and seasonal and agriculture, or however the case, and your mannerisms. And then that breaks down to characteristics or whatever the case may be, and before it get turned into colonizing and caricatures and divination or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, it's just understanding it's a time for everything, even beyond the physical things, because y'all get lost in money and be like, well, it's a time to do that. We ain't gonna do this right now because stocks is going up, stocks is going low. But you got that energy from something beyond what you invested your time in that falsicity world, if you understand what I'm saying. So for the most part, Aries, or that position, will be the first awareness or first spark. Then when we get into the next transition, that takes us into the first container, concealment, right? So you're inside of that first spark. You're inside of that first awareness. So when you separate yourself and just look at the universe as a whole or whatever, this is how you understand It ain't it ain't no big bang or whatever the case may be. We're just seeing the startings of an ability, right? So that ability is you being aware of yourself. So that become the first womb, understanding yourself. Now, third, Gemini time, the first communication with oneself, because you got that. If you're nothing as a spirit, then you create that awareness. Boom, that become the thing you inside of. So that external energy, by default, simultaneously, you're inside of it also. You're inside of your first bubble, your first honey in that little spiritual space pocket. Now, here's the thing. When you start to, keyword, I think. So I am, then for the most part, I value, or basically that perception, then I think. So you're basically communicating with yourself. So before you could communicate with anyone else, once that mental form, that chakra you created, if you don't like the word chakra or mental form, condensed that became the throat chakra organ, or all these, the Adam's apple and the female y'all tonsils and everything of that nature, right? This the process you go through first. So if you lack communication with yourself, you're gonna lack sustainable communication with anyone outside of you. You know what I'm saying? Or if you get too much invested into a particular way of thinking that don't really be relatable to anything external, then for the most part, you may lack being relatable no matter how much you're talking about something, however the case may be. But dealing with that internal energy is letting you know you can't stop from doing this first before you do it external. So it ain't the brain processing, it ain't the brain creating thoughts, it's the brain processing thoughts. But something else is creating the thoughts, and that's our soul, our spirit, or whatever the case may be, and or your space. If you're atheist and you don't like that word spirit, or however the case may be, but for the most part, you need to know it ain't you just living in reactionary energy first all the time. You know what I'm saying? Because you create your own thoughts too, and you receive other people's thoughts. So we call that influence within the atmosphere, not whatever influence because a person got trinkets on or whatever the case may be. See what I'm saying? Running around and flashing things around for a rollout. So that awareness, boom, then you inside of it, first womb. So when we think about the Taurus season itself, right, which I'm gonna break down the other cycle, but you know I still have to give this a foundation because this is what this live stream is about. So Taurus season, and also there's a particular, because when we think about, it's really just half and half, and it's really just a transition as a whole. Really, the first through the sixth house, Aries through Virgo, is really one thing. We call that the father, the esoteric daytime on a mass scale, the macro daytime. Then we have the macro nighttime, and that'll be from Libra to Pisces, or from PM, or the 7th through the 12th house, or whatever the case. So that'll be the concept of where Lilith was derived from, or the consort of the father, or the consort of God, or whatever. So that would be the yin, where the yin get derived from in Chinese concepts, and the yang get derived from also. But it's just the first half of the year and the second half of the year. You know what I'm saying? And you got the Jews, they had the Yabe, or whatever the case may be. We got Walking Taka, but for the most part, it's just equinox, solstice. You know what I'm saying? So it's helping you understand there's a transition or a birth stage, and then there's a transition that's going into the death phase, right? But then it's really not birth or death. It's really just accumulation, awareness, accumulation, awareness, accumulation, awareness, accumulation, aware. So when you got the same process happening in the same position, this is where you get the lighter world condensing and becoming a heavy world, and then you start to get expansion. Then you start to get velocity, volume, and mass, and then you get all the different structures condensing from the lighter stage that ultimately what y'all considering the thought world or the mental world. But the mental world condense and become the physical world. So each organ, each structure externally, and your physical, internal, external bodily physique and things of that nature was created out of mental structures, right? So the mind is our first bodies. So you have to understand that. So you make your first body, the mind. Then who it connects to based upon the cycle of the time system and the mechanism is how you're interchanging in and out of the physicality portion of it, or whatever the case may be, because it takes teamwork makes the dream work. Even in the mental world, your mind have to be connected with others' minds, so you have to spiritually be in that space with others in that space. And that mind state is what we're starting to point to and call characteristics to just describe what's going on. But for the most part, it's like an ocean pool, and each puddle is a characteristic, and a spirit could be in that space and then start develop those characteristics, and it's connected with other spirits there, so y'all make waves there with y'all own individual bubbles and things of that nature. But for the most part, some little pockets is more chaotic than other people's pockets. Some people's pockets can go through smoothly. You know, some people lose their space and end up in pockets that they don't belong in. So they end up being in resistant type of situations, going against the grain type of situations, stuck situations, up against the grudges situations, all kind of things of that nature. But at the same time, it's just about how do you know how to swim? And your first body is the mind, and you kind of look at it like fishies, or you kind of look at it like, you know what I'm saying, just mental absorbing, mental transition, mental traction, mental floating. And I look at that as a spaceship. But however you look at it, ultimately, whatever we see in the physical world will be a description of it. You know what I'm saying? You might think you intelligent or whatever, but you got a small mind. So that's like a dumpster truck. So you don't care about things that go fast or whatever. You might got a slow pace. That's how you image yourself. So for the most part, that's the type of adrenaline you make it. And also you'll start to appear that way too. Start to appear sluggish just because your slow way of thinking, your slow mind, your slow way of moving. So for the most part, things in your life might go slow because you don't know how to spark that same type of awareness, however the case. But these are just tactics how you could try to play out what I'm getting ready to talk about in reality once you become sensitive to the senses and know that there's a natural thing going on in the spiritual world that's really the mental. And if you understand that first, then that leads into the physical. And everything that you depressed about or things you want to do in the physical is really on this ground basis. And all you got to do is start there, and then that'll always be successful because you're doing it as a mechanism. So therefore, even when you're looking at things from that lens, you don't predicate what you're considering success on the things that Walt Disney may have just taught us what success was. You know what I'm saying? It may be something that you're challenging yourself internally, mentally, and it could be certain things physically that don't have nothing to do with what other people and social norms are considering success, that you feel like if you challenge yourself and actually do it, you reach that success. And here's the thing. When you put yourself in that energy, you're creating that matter in the mental world, so it manifests in the physical world, things that actually matter. So when you're in that cycle, you're building up that energy anyway. So for the most part, you end up getting that reciprocation from the external world. So even when you direct that energy, even when it comes to things like discipline, you might be able to get a job that takes more discipline than someone who lacked discipline because you already building up that energy behind closed doors. And you may have got that trait from something that ain't had nothing to do with you wanting that job. But just because you got those traits, you're already appearing to be more suitable for that job than someone who may be moving their elbow a certain way to make them look like they might not be able to sit at that desk or do that construction work or do that factory work or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? So it's all about how you set your intent. But for the most part, like I said, first is a spark of awareness. Then it becomes the container, the first womb. So when you're looking at Taurus season right now, this is the first container, the first for you to even feel comfortable within this realm of reality as a mind state, or as a seed actually having something to be seeded in, which is the self in this aspect, because it ain't nothing else to be seated in but yourself or whatever, right? And since it play as another side, this is why the moon transitions during Taurus time is so important, right? So for an example, let's say a lot of y'all are into the Bible or whatever the case may be, right? Now you have to understand, see, a lot of y'all may not understand that. Now I have to be real. When we think about the Bible or whatever the case, the Christian Bible to be specific, is really just a colonist idea of capitalizing other people's cultures, specifically the Native Americans, if you're in the Western Hemisphere, right? So if you don't understand the Native American spirituality, you're not going to understand what colonists is trying to colonize and appear to be by using military, right? So when it say God split the moon, or split the stars and the sun and moon, right? This is basically saying Yahweh is just the concept of the universe, and the splitting of the sun and moon is just when we get a new moon and we see the transition to the full moon and things of that nature. So that's the splitting. You know what I'm saying? You get to see a crescent moon or whatever the case may be. Now, when you got somebody saying, well, this thing ain't coming to save y'all from these big cannonballs and stuff like that, we're going to be the ones splitting the moon. You just get that in a softer corn way in today's time. Vampire movies about blocking out the sun or whatever the case may be, right? But do you get it? You get the starting point of certain lineages and the interactions and how y'all just getting soft batch cookie versions of it today after there's already a lot of money that can be made off of it or whatever the case may be. So you got to have a healthy starting point. So when you get into these things, because you may be lost or whatever the case may be, these are the things you start with. So you may over exaggerate the concept behind splitting the sun and the stars, or the fallen star and Satan, and over exaggerate it means 6 p.m. and that's when the sun is down, or evening time, or half of the year, which will be Libra time after Virgo, after that first Passover or whatever. So we're talking about the sun or whatever. So if you're thinking about the morning star, the bright star, and the fallen star, you're talking about 6 a.m. after before 6 a.m. in the morning, right? So when the sun is in Pisces, or at that time, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning star before it rise, bright star or the day star, Taurus time once it's fixated, so that'll be 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning, or macro wise that will be Taurus season, right? So that's when the sun is at its brightest because it's in its fixated point from being in its exaltation or its distance in Aries. So now it's in its fixated point. And then for the most part, fallen star, there ain't no other description but PM. So if you think a human is talking about something else, you a human talking about something else, and thought another human was talking about something else, based upon you being on a land that you probably ain't, your lineage ain't from, and things of that nature. So you ain't got nobody talking to you, or you ain't got no concept of it from a starting point in your own, and your starting point may just come from survival and being broke. But at the same time, that's the how you look at it from a healthy reality perspective, while still having to use the same words that lead into all the lostness of it and stuff like that at the same time. So it's about being sensitive to the senses, so you can know what's actually going on, and there is no other starting point to why something is when it comes to these words and meanings that we're slapping on it and create a social norm around it. You see what I'm saying? Just even when we get into halal or halal or whatever the case may be, right? That's native tongue. So that's something going over hell. So when we talk about hey, ha, ho, hu, he, right? That's talking about just like ha, chi in China, noon. So it's a different term for noon. So during the day, the sun in its highest position is noon. So if we're looking at the sun, that'd be the name we're calling it. We just call it 12, not Hellel. We call it 12 in today's time after it got colonized. But it was just a different name for it, not what y'all colonized and God gave in terms and meanings to it, and then y'all trying to understand other people's culture, but you still a Moravian. You trying to make money from it. You a grifter. You a you know what I'm saying? You a scammer. You know what I'm saying? You an agent. So you're coming at it trying to be seen that you can teach it, when it's actually you're teaching something that have been stolen from somebody's culture who don't even see it that way. Your brain is trained to make money off of it, or to be seen as the representation of a person who teach it. And that Mormons and Moravians did that better than you. You see what I'm saying? So it's like that. You don't go no further than that, though. But if you heavily invested into needing a roof over your head, needing to pay your child support bill, needing food on the table and things of that nature, then your mind will come up with a whole bunch of things you consider intelligent to justify some other than what I just explained that you're doing. You see what I'm saying? But for the most part, but when it gets into understanding that, right, that helps you separate from the pseudo and get you back into reality of it. Then you can add your spiritual qualities of it. Then it makes more sense that you ain't a grifter when you're telling someone that it's probably better to eat around noon other than too much before that or too much after that, or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Other than, yeah, you should only eat noon, or God coming back to punish you, or aliens coming back to save somebody's race, or whatever. After that point, you're more invested into needing a roof over your head. You just came up with some way that you considered intelligent to do it. Other than that, who you fooling? You know what I'm saying? Now, here's the thing, right? So when it comes into Aries season, right? That's going to be the first awareness or first spark. Then it comes into the first container, the first womb. Happy Mother's Day. Because once something is external or something gets expanded, that's more tied to the energy of masculine, externalizing. But once that simultaneous energy comes after, right? Because you just externalize something as your spiritual space, simultaneously you're within it. So something within or something going inside of something or something inside of something is more of the feminine energy or multiple. So now you have another side. So that's why the moon shifts while the sun is in Taurus is important. Pardon me. Because you got the debilitation or the falling of the moon being in Scorpio, and you only gonna get that during the time that the sun is in Taurus. You see what I'm saying? And the sun is exalted. I mean, the moon is exalted in Taurus, aka the moon. Any type of moon shift is in its highest position only during the time in Taurus or whatever. So if you understand astronomy, you understand positioning and distance, and you understand there's 7 different distances and positions during Aries through Virgo time of the year. You know what I'm saying? Spring and summer. And then there's the same position just seen from a different angle. Those same different distance and positions, 7 different distance and positions just seen from a different angle during the other time of the year. Libra through Pisces, or the other half, or Lilith, or whatever the case may be. So here's how we get in slightly different perception, but then we get the same ruler. The sun that we see in these positions, and we give them the same ruler when we see them from a different angle, Libra through Pisces, and it's how you get the sun, the Mars sun, being able to rule Aries, then below the horizon, or on the other half of the year, Scorpio. You know what I'm saying? For an example, when you look at Aquarius being ruled by Saturn, like Capricorn, this wasn't, the starting point wasn't developed by these being 7 stars. And then y'all just got somebody saying this star ruled those signs. No, this is a study of solely the sun and the moon. So when we see the distance and the position of the location of the sun during the 60 days, we don't see it in no other distance or location in no other time of the year than the 60 days that we're calling Capricorn and Aquarius. The 30 days of Capricorn and the 30 days of Aquarius. We see the lead up to it until it get to that 3rd day of Capricorn. We see the lead of transitioning away once it get from that the 63rd day, which would be Aquarius or whatever. So that pocket in the sky that we own when the sun is there, that only create that timing or whatever the case may be, we're calling the sun in that position Saturn. Not no star Saturn was colonized now and they made money. But this is how you actually look at it if y'all actually understand other people's culture. That's the Saturn sun. It's a different name for the sun in that position that we only see those 60 days of that time of the year, right? Not the Saturn sun being separate from that sun we see. That's false or whatever the case may be, and which I'll be seeing as satellites or whatever. So based upon them already doing that, that's why if you was to actually understand real things, then you won't be trying to be like, well, what was Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune doing when people started astrology 2,000 years ago? No, you'll understand Pluto and Neptune and Uranus was discovered in the 1950s and 60s. So once you hear that word discovered, it means it was made up based upon a position that the sun be in. But since we understand the sun being positions, you got people who start creating caricatures of these things, like Adams, Neil deGrasse's, and stuff like that, just to make money off your lostness and make movies out of it, like Superman. About the sun and emanating it as a person who think like that down here and sketch together a movie called Superman or whatever the case may be. That was their idea about whatever their spiritual system was about, which is basically Australia and a new age and age of enlightenment concept about the sun being in that position or whatever the case may be. So that ultimately who's ever got that ideology was behind whoever made Superman or whatever the case may be, and Batman. But at the same, that goes beyond the author dude. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, that's what it means. It just means the sun in that position. So that's what we're calling Saturnia, But at the same time, they transmuted it over here and it becomes Saturn or whatever. But it's just the time that the sun is getting ready to do its last half of the full cycle. The last 30 days, Pisces, then it made a complete full cycle or whatever the case may be. So that's the big. So that's why you even get a lot of allegories in a lot of other religions where they say, well, that's Jesus' birthday or whatever the case may be. Or however, you know what I'm saying? It's just the last portion before we start a new cycle or the Passover. I'm saying, but if you leave it up to a Hebrew Israelite, they'll tell you that it's an alien and God coming down on a spaceship or whatever, and they ain't got nothing to do with how spaceship is a space sheep. Characteristics as animals. That's why you make the animal wheel. You know what I'm saying? The medicine wheel. So different animal traits is how we could point to, even in a physical world, counterpartmentalize. Maybe you got this trait and you was born at this time that this animal come out or whatever the case may be. And then the space between me and you, that's space. So then you have the mind characteristic. So that's space sheep, space ship. And you could be riding on a spaceship or a warship, a collection of y'all as a tribe carrying out an ideology during that time where everybody can play out the position on that ship. So, you know, colonists came over and they doing the same thing, which is today's time, y'all. America was built off that kind of construct. So it's all mind things. So you have sponsorships, you have business ships, you have relationships, you have counselship, you know what I'm saying? Internship, you know what I'm saying? This is how it always was, because this is how the natives and the Europeans interacted, and then the Africans that was getting brought over here, you got institutionalized into that type of way of going, or whatever the case may be. But that's still the structure. And when you understand these type of concepts, right, you get that from astronomy. You can't get that from nothing else. You know what I'm saying? You can't get all this concept and Noah's ships and ark and coming from you can't get none of that from none. Even praying to the east. What you think that mean? Over the Passover, the sun from your position, geographically speaking, right, towards the east or whatever. So that's going to be your time of experiencing spring. So praying towards the east is like you giving birth to the area where your mind is at on a particular, and where all of our minds at, teamwork makes the dream work, the sun. So you're just doing something in order. But a lot of y'all like to do things in order for things that ain't got nothing to do with order. Something that, you know, maybe Walt Disney may have taught you. You know what I'm saying? So you think that you get ready to get some success in your life, but you really cutthroat and conniving. And you thinking God because you got this ability to manipulate somebody else or to get over your family or your friend or your associate or your coworker. So a lot of times y'all be in faulty energies. Y'all have to be careful of that. Understand how to be sensitive to the senses. There's things going on outside of you that actually have everything to do with you plucking from all of these things, and this collection become what we're calling your character. You know what I'm saying? So that's a real thing or whatever. And there's going to be always people that come into the world that has a different angle, and then vice versa. You have a different angle, and you have to practice puzzle piecing. I like to call it that. You know what I'm saying? Where you're not lost in the fluff, but you understand the process. So you fitting shoe sizes. You saying where you could get in. You saying where do you fit. But if you never try, you ain't gonna fit nowhere. And that's what make you try in the reality down here and things of that nature. Because you like, and then you like, where's my place? Then you end up being that type of individual that needs to be a part of something. Then once you in that type of space, you're up to be taken advantage of. You're open and exposed to be acceptable to anything or any bullshit an individual, especially a grifter, come across to rock you to sleep with. And 9 times out of 10, the grifter is your next door neighbor or somebody you always knew. Online, that's a new thing. These all in the world. Once you watch TV too much and go out in the world and go downtown, if you live in New York City, and get hit upside the head with a bunch of hot breath words from a Hebrew Israelite or something like that. That's after. A lot of times, first person who played with your booty hole lived next door to you and got a record deal or something, and got out of jail for selling 10 bricks and somehow got out and wanted to save all the children or something. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times it's right there first before you even start watching TV, blame another race, blame another ethnic group or whatever the case may be. It'd be the old Uncle Jimmy's friend right next door who just got out of jail for selling 10 bricks. And a lot of times it'd be right there. You gotta check that first. Check that first and things. And a lot of times y'all just be bullshit. Y'all be bullshit. But hey, dog, keep your mind open for all things, though. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, like I said, right? Now let's break down these transitions. So the first Aries season is the awareness or the first spark. Taurus is the first container, the concealment. Gemini is the first communication with oneself. Cancer is the first care for that awareness. Because you like communicating with this yourself right here, like, oh, okay. Before you even know that's care, we ain't got no word for this, but we're speaking from the lens of an Atmos DAP, or you get more closer to God. So, you know, when God didn't have no assistance, you did this in a smaller representation. Now you get to understand more of what you have done and how to accumulate on it and how to prevent mistakes and things of that nature. But for the most part, boom, you have your first care of awareness. Then Leo, the first expression or acting out or being absorbed in that awareness. Remind you, ain't no negative or positive yet. This is just the essence of these things before you take this plucking and do your own how, and then do your own night and day shift or whatever, and you on a red road or black road. So be careful. But for the most part, more equilibrium you understand that these are just experiences, and not to go too crazy or get chaotic or be absorbed and influenced by. You know what I'm saying? So that keep you in a perspective of knowing you can get lost in your own mind, lost in your own creations. Then that get absorbed in other people in that same spiritual space. Then that just create chaos. And then don't nobody have to go through a lot of foolish experiences just to get something right, which ultimately that's what people in that spiritual space will have to go through. So let that not be you. Be a spiritual wise individual before going through foolish scenarios. Then you get it. So the Leo, that'll be the first expression, acting out or being absorbed in that awareness. Then you get into Virgo, the first adjustment that lead up to harvesting or worrying about what may have been lost or what have to be changed. Remind you, that first spark, Aries, you inside of that first spark yourself. So you giving birth to yourself inside of that first womb. Happy Mama's Day. Taurus, Gemini, communicating with all that inside, like, damn, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. Don't get too lost in mind chatter. You know what I'm saying? Then having a care or deciphering what care is now. Maybe I don't care too much about this. Ooh, I care about this, but you're dealing with yourself, right? Now it's coming to that. All this is simultaneous. By even doing that, oh, I care about this, I don't care about that. You expression, you're acting on it, or whatever the case may be. You could be absorbed in one more than the other for you to start to create the dislike and the like, or whatever the case may be, right? That's why Leos like to be liked. Like to give attention to what others care about that possibly could be talked about when other people in their comfort zone giving their own individual idea about it. See how we just went backwards from Leos back to Aries, and then that was the first role too. Then that to Sagittarius, if you read the Bible, when it comes into Moses. So Moses will be the beginning of the ocean or the Holy Ocean, right? Then Moses seeing the burning bush at 80 years old or whatever. That'd be 80 days in springtime. So that'd be 10 days away from summer, right? Because it's 90 days per season. So for the most part, that'd be maybe 20 degrees Gemini or whatever. So for the most part, that space in the sky, whether the sun ain't there or not, maybe whether the sun there or not, that positioning of the sun is what we're calling Orion. You know what I'm saying? So Orion, hey, ha, ho. Look, hey, ha, ho. So where do you see the sun at towards the east during that time, Orion? You know what I'm saying? If you want to go and get lost or whatever like that, that's all your fault. God's supposed to teach you these things or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, just let you know, Psycho, this is why you go broke right now, because gas is high and your closest gas station is True North. But you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But other than that, like I said, boom. So Leo, that's the first expression, acting out or being absorbed. Then once you absorb and you doing all that compartmentalizing and stuff, or you could be absorbed or this expression or whatever, then you start to harvest, or then you start to realize where you may be drinking too much, or then you start to realize where things could be led up or things could be lost because now we're no longer in that summer, or now you're starting to see what transitions actually mean. And transition actually can mean travel, and travel mean point A, point B, point C, and there's distance being created. Point A, point C, and even between point B. So for the most part, distance develop also more coldness, or more shieldness, or more the energy of what we're calling having to be prepared, or however the case may be. So now you're starting to see you can't hold on to a light as long because it could get burnt out. So take what you can do to survive even when it's not time to spark another light. So that's where that energy comes from, Virgo. So Virgo is the first adjustment that lead to harvest or worrying about what may be lost or have to change. Then we get into Libra, right? The Libra time of the year, or the mind being developed, right? The first connection or separation, the first connection or separation to what was lost or previous, or whatever the case. So for the most part, trying to put together based upon what was this developed. That spark of awareness that you inside of, to communicate with yourself, to now care about, when it became expressions that now you're separating from, or having to learn how to harvest, or having to learn that you can't go too far on, right? This become things that you have to put together, things you have to balance out. You see what I'm saying? Things that have to be fair. Give attention to one more than the other, or learn how to not give attention to one more than the other, or to see where they all value, because they all still that first energy, they all still that spark energy, just in different layers, just with different hows. The what is still there, but just the different hows. So when it comes into the Libra is, how can these be relatable? How can these be in sync by now being in a different position, being in an opposite position, going through those transitions? By default, I'm in a different position. Now I can see something from an opposite lens. Now I can see something from a right next to me lens, or whatever. Remember, these are all your creations, or whatever, right? So for the most part, when things become unbearable, why? Because things is unfair, unbalanced, uneven. Anytime things is like that, things is out of order in life. We see that this is the time things supposed to be even. 6 p.m. Libra time. When things ain't even in your life, but we see that in actuality that goes beyond just a tree being even, or just a head-on collision, or whatever the case may be. This is where you go through your most unbalanced parts of your life, or your most unease of your life. Think about when you're in a situation and you getting the short end of the stick. Think about when you got a job but you the one getting taken advantage of. Think about when you're in a relationship but you doing more of the hard work than someone else, or whatever. Think about when you're in a position but you feel like you're more of a burden than someone else, right? That's that uneven energy, or whatever the case may be. So Libra goes beyond relationships. It's internal. How can we relate these multiple things, aka transitions, that we have created from the spark? Now that we in this part of the spark had this kind of how, this kind of how, this kind of how. So if the what, the spark is one thing, how do I balance these? See what I'm saying? Because they're in different transitions. And if I'm in this transition, this position where I can see it from my opposite, but it's still me, how can I balance myself out? How can I be relatable? How can I relate this with this? I already got from Leo, I like this more than this. I already got multiple things from Mind Chatter, Gemini. I'm already inside of something, so I can't go nowhere else where these things is going on, Taurus. And I just keep sparking them in their own independent position, but I have to separate from this one to be independent from this one, Aries. See what I'm saying? How do I do this so I don't be chaotic? So this is that Libra energy time, or whatever the case may be. So this is the mind development, knowing that it has different sides, but really is this a transition. So knowing how to understand it has different sides while being the same thing, you don't lose yourself. A lot of times y'all get lost in y'all mind down here, and this is what makes y'all not relatable, because you're too busy trying to use your energy to relate to something that may not even got anything to do with you, or whatever the case may be. But it's a social norm. You think you have to participate. You think you have to look like that thing. You think you have to be a part of that social group, or whatever the case may be. And it burn you out, because when you by yourself again, and now you have to develop that energy of, damn, I like to do this, or is that really me? You find yourself having to build yourself up in that area to do it again. Recharge in this area to do it again. Feel like you may have to call off at times to do it again, or whatever the case may be. And for the most part, that become fake and phony. That become you putting on a facade. That become you just being a weird relatable for the sake of the situation, or whatever the case. But you're actually creating more problems for yourself, more unbalance for yourself, because the things you're doing to consider you're keeping balance in your own personal life is creating unbalance. And that's what Libras got to understand. The very same things that create that you think you're doing to keep things stable and balanced be the very same things that create a lot of unbalance in your life because of how hard you got to go for these things to maintain what you see things through that filtering system of Libra or whatever the case may be. So every now and then you got to get into your earth sign, aka Aries, and learn that sometimes for your own balance, you have to only relate to things inside of you, not take and separate that nurturing for yourself to make sure people outside of you is balanced and based upon your participation with the situation. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you take away from yourself and you become unbalanced. Then when it's time for you to get stable, when it's time for someone to be there for you the same way you're there for someone else, you haven't even created that situation. So now you can't even blame nobody because the way you carried yourself didn't create the scenario for that to even be a door that's open or whatever. So those times that you're going to start justifying that, well, maybe I need what I give others, you didn't create those type of relationships. You created that pocket for you to only be that for that person. You never put yourself in no position to create that pocket for someone to be like that for you. And that's when you got to start caring more about you. You know what I'm saying? That's when the Libras start having to learn you're part of the bubble of when the sun be at PM. And things fall. That's why END is at the end of friend. So when you learn that inside, these things you're connected to think that you have to uphold it to create balance, that ain't what it is. Sometimes you got to separate from that. So this and spend more time with this one, and then that'll start externally playing out. And then for the most part, you'll start attracting other people who know how to play their part, who know how to hold their end of the stick, who know how to even things out, who know how to have just as much baggage on their end of the seesaw of the relationship as you, or whatever the case may be. Other than that, you're going to just be a sweet talker into your own hell for the rest of your life, Libras. You know what I'm saying? And y'all know what I mean by that. All y'all Libras know what I mean by that. Sweet talkers into your own hell. Y'all set up a situation real good, even breaking up happy homes and communicating and stuff like that and getting what y'all want just to realize, you know, I ain't really want that. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And now you think now, you know what I'm saying? Too late, you're married. You know what I'm saying? Too late, you got that job. You know what I'm saying? Too late, you can't help it. That's your family member. Too late, you know what I'm saying? Too late, you're in jail. You know what I'm saying? Too late, you pop that fake perky. You know what I'm saying? Y'all chill out. But like I said, right, getting into Scorpio, right? Now, Scorpio, this is the first awareness or expression of separation or counterpartmentalizing what's there and what's to be based upon all that transition and then you having to counterpartmentalize what's relatable or not, whatever. Now, when you're in one side of one of the counterpartmentalizing, right, you're able to be in that position of being more strategic. You're able to understand that, oh, there's a concept of something being separate right now. If I could be in this other than this, because maybe I was just lost in thinking it's just me trying to relate it based upon me worrying about it because something may have left based upon me being absorbed in it and I like this and based upon caring about it from developing multiple things that I ain't know was multiple yet, just in that mind chatter based upon me being inside of something I can't escape from these sparks that I'm sparking as an independent individual, aka y'all see I just went backwards, you know what I'm saying, from Scorpio back to Aries. So for the most part, now you're in a situation where, I'm not scared of destruction. I'm not scared to let this go. Or in a situation of, I can't let this go. Or I need to hold on to it because I still feel unsafe and I don't care if we're fully in the transition of fall and distance. And this thing I'm holding on to, it's kind of harder to hold on to it because I'm further away from it. But I can't let it go. I can't let that image go. I can't let that character go. I can't let that. This becomes grudge. This become excitement. Just become setting yourself up for a letdown. Just become thinking that you have to do something about something that ain't necessarily there. Just become this face not being a representative of this face, yet there's only one controller of both faces. And one care about the face that's hidden more than the face that's being shown, just so it can see whatever this face that's being shown and all the interactions, how far it go, so the real motivation feeling that one is in can strike at the best time or separate and stay in its own pocket at the same time and feel safe, because none of these things accumulated as far as people, places, and things from this face that's being shown know about this face that I'm in and this comfort zone about it or whatever. So let me just not present this and keep it tucked away, just in case when I separate from a situation, I ain't got to worry about nothing putting a spotlight on it. So for the most part, those is characteristics also that develop during this particular time too. Hiding and characters based upon the dislike or the highly liking of an energy that lead into overexcitement, that ultimately, once we go into Sagittarius energy and things of that nature, then it leads into expansion, the bubble busting, cocoon having to expand for no by default, and nothing you could do, having to let something go, having to learn that wisdom from it, having to learn from loss, having to expand, having to add meaning to something, aka we learn how to add another meaning to something that makes us feel comfortable about something that before we had that new meaning, we may have not know how to deal with something or whatever the case may be. A lot of y'all have lost people. A lot of y'all lost jobs or whatever the case. A lot of y'all may have got y'all feelings hurt or whatever. As soon as you develop another meaning, that's really your spirit just in a different space, creating a different angle of how to see that situation. And then that bubble that you in is a more comfortable space than that space you was just in, because you're seeing it from a different angle. And it's just as simple as that. So I'm saying, don't over exaggerate it. So as we start to talk about the Sagittarius space in the sky, or the moon being, or the mind being developed, right? This takes us into the first awareness of expanding or realizing there's more to you after the transition, which can appear as you being bigger than the container size you was previously in, aka looking back at a situation from a less reactionary position, aka a problem or a scenario that's not appearing to be big anymore. So for the most part, if you the observer and your spirit is nothing, but you could see something smaller than it was when you was within it, and that's like a mental situation and how you see a situation. You may see a situation bigger than what it is after you get through it. Every time the spirit expands, starting with Aries, right? Everything that has a starting point has an expiration date. So once you actually fulfill an experience, your spirit or your space outgrow the size of the thing you just wrapped yourself in, that mental body. Once you outgrow that experience or learn that experience, that's a form of outgrowing it. Your spirit expands and contracts always. So everything it creates around it has the same concept. This is how you got a pulse. This is how you, but you're just really emanating, condensing. So once you create a tissue and things of that nature, got that same aspect or whatever. But for the most part, this is spiritual growth, spiritual expansion, right? The awareness of being able to get out of something that you was in, and even though that you was in something in general, counterpartmentalize it with other things within it. Outgrowing something, right? Expansion, expounding, or escaping. So this is the mind or the spirit being able to deal with the mind better based upon knowing that it's creating the mind, it's creating its first body or whatever the case may be. And you can't stay in certain forms because you'll be stuck in that, and what was once good become bad. What was once and a good expression become a negative one. What was once what y'all considering heaven and pleasure become pain and hell or whatever. So it's just like repeating something that you wanted, like a good job, but now you tired of being there, and now you coming up with concepts of why the money ain't important no more, because the routine of you doing the same thing again is more of the importance of what's frustrating you, other than the original intent of why you participated with in the first place. You see what I'm saying? So it's the whole concept of outgrowing. It's the whole concept of expansion. It's the whole concept of learning that your spirit could be aware of something that you was once inside of, that you're no longer inside of, and you can look back at it, and it's no longer you inside of it. So you see it smaller. And we ain't even talking about physical, but this is how the mind is learning how to separate and expand or extend. And this is why a lot of Sagittarius got a connection with the thigh area and things of that nature or whatever. They blood cycle and veins run a certain way that's different than everybody else. Taurus has got the shoulders. Sagittarius got the thighs or whatever the case may be. Aquarius might got shin heads. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of Sagittarius might got the face of a kneecap. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of Sagittarius got kneecap faces and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? We're just describing certain things. You know what I'm saying? It's not always, not everybody, not always. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody. But yeah, like I said, right? So that's Sagittarius. Then when we get into Capricorn, the Capricorn is the first foundation of the mechanism, right? AKA putting these expressions in order to build it. So once you already got out of something look lore, something you like to jump back in to expand on, expound on, but you still in your own mind and you understanding that, okay, I'm expanding and making my spirit older. This is what wisdom is or whatever. Let me start doing these things in order so it's not chaotic like I just went through these experiences for the first time. So for the most part, it's letting you know that there's things to get in order. All these transitions, Aries leading up all the way to Sagittarius, Capricorn is the time of the space that it's time to put these things in order. So you can understand that was first. That's what I'm inside of. That's what I start communicating with myself with. The communication of I could be outside and inside of something. I start to have a care for it. That was an expression. I'm able to feel it, sense it. Now I got to worry, you know what I'm saying, based upon the separation or what I like more. So the separation just means something that's less than on a percentage scale before I think it's separate. Boom, getting the Libra time. Now I figure out something uneven, something unbalanced. What is this being unbalanced? Now I actually learn it is separation, and I might be in one thing more than another that I got from the square energy 90 degrees away, Leo, when I'm in Scorpio now. Oh, so do I need to put this to death? Do I need to get more excited about this? How do I learn this? I'm retarded, degenerate. I need to regenerate. This Sagittarius. Oh, I'm bigger than both of those things. So both of those are biases. Oops. You know what I'm saying? Then you in Capricorn. Now in Capricorn. Let me get that in order. You know what I'm saying? Oh, so I'm expanding. I'm bigger than these things. So let me make sure that one I was lost in, I created a grudge or an excitement. Put that over here. Maybe I need to hide that. People don't need to see that no more or whatever the case. So now this evened up with this balance right here, Libra. You know what I'm saying? So now I don't really got to worry about that no more and feel vulnerable. And I could go back to when I need it. It's harvest just right. Harvest. Virgo. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? Now I can express it when I want to without getting no negative reciprocations or me feeling bad about myself or guilty because I'm going too far, Leo. You know what I'm saying? And therefore, this is the right care. You know what I'm saying? Now I care for these things. That's automatically opposite energy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay, I'm practicalizing what I care about, whatever, based upon, boom, you automatically communicating with these things. Gemini. You know what I'm saying? Oh, so it becomes your foundation, Taurus, Trine. You know what I'm saying? Based upon you being in your initiating space from that angle, understanding that you sparked all these things in the first place with Marys. Now, as we get into Aquarius, right? The first awareness of associations or associates, aka the multiple transitions of one just experienced as some become close and distance as expressions that are associated with you having multiple personality or characteristics. Let me repeat. The first awareness of associations, associates, aka the multiple transitions one just experienced that some become distant and some is close. And that's when you know you're doing everything simultaneous from Capricorn and keeping things in order. Because what does you keep in order? Some things in distance, some things that's close, that you have developed from the things you have cared about, the things you have absorbed about, or whatever the case may be. And this is why Aquariuses go ghost on situations where the Aries and the Scorpios go ghost, but theirs is based on separation. So a lot of times you might can get an idea why they went ghost. The Aquarius may not give you no idea why they create distance or whatever. So it'll be that kind of ghosted energy, and they think you're supposed to be a mind reader. But getting out of this astrology of it, right? This is that position where certain things goes ghost after you have put these things in order. Certain things remain in its distance position after you put it in order in Capricorn. So you know that remains distant. That's something to never go back close to, even if it's one of those things you put in order from Capricorn that I call Abaddon. You know what I'm saying? The Aquarius allowing you to associate your associations, deal with your people and your animals, or whatever the case may be, right? So you can start naming them or whatever. You could name these things. Yeah, that's distant. Yeah, that's productive. That's, you know what I'm saying? Start naming these things or whatever. That's when I expanded. That's transformation. That's a guilt. That's a grudge. That's too exciting. That's harvest. You know what I'm saying? All that counterpartmentalizing and not separating. These are your associations, your group, your Avengers, your Aquarius energy. Boom. So you're all within one thing. You're just in different pockets of it. You're all still in your own mind. Then you got Pisces, the first awareness or different possibilities of what the spirit has to, my bad, the first awareness of different possibilities. Because once you're doing this and counterpartmentalize it, right, that automatically leads to what's next. You're going to start imagining different ways how you can take your associations that you're putting in order. Aquarius, Capricorn, associations in order, Capricorn. So for the most part, the first awareness of different possibilities of what the spirit has just experienced and acquired through these transitions to eventually present or create a different and newer version of the same mechanism again, aka spring, summer, fall, and winter, and those transitions of the mind, body, and the physical world. So that's basically that's basically end up being the full cycle, because you end up knowing that when you in this space, you still create an idea again. So that goes back to Aries simultaneously while you're in Pisces. But if you slow this process down, you'll start to realize all these events was a simultaneous thing on a broader scale. So when I be explaining external, internal, expansion, contraction, distance, closeness, or whatever, this whole little process within it is going on at the same time too. All these, it's a whole bunch of nuances and minutes to what's going on simultaneous. So any field of reality you're paying attention to has the first mechanism larger on a percentage scale of simultaneous starting points, because that's where the essence of it come from. Now you get more spiritual. You're sensitive to the senses. Once you understand, okay, let me figure out this process, this mechanism. And a lot of times there's things in the physical world that it has just enough percentage scale that it share the same transition of we all the same substance, but it's in the same pocket just enough that if you got enough relatable and sync energy, you're able to use that as a substantiated foundation. You know what I'm saying? And this is where parables come from, or hypotheticals come from. But you'll be more in sync with the universe, or being right and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Not just so lost in how we conduct our biases and our social norms and things and what we consider to be intelligent that may not be intelligent. For an example, right? I know this is a little extreme, but this makes it make sense, right? You could get in a car accident and then blame it on God did it, or is this physics or whatever, this person wrong, this person right, hopefully nobody got hurt, or whatever the case may be. But that's going to be the ground basis of what you're considering intelligent or not. But in all actuality, there wouldn't have been a car, and there wouldn't have been a reason for you to be in a car that got created in the first place if it wasn't rooted on a bias and a person wanting to get to a destination that they either had to be there for a necessity of their bills, or had to be there for the necessity of or didn't have to be there, but just wanted to be there for the necessity of their entertainment or their ability to go there, or whatever the case may be. Other than that, anything that comes from that and description put on it is an over exaggeration. So if you was on a road and you got into an accident, any excuse, anything you make up is just you just lost in the weird Walt Disney World, synthetic world. It really had nothing to do with anything. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? It's like that. But you would make the intelligent conversation about it. I'm just using that as an example. Yeah, this person should have made that turn. I didn't make this person, and it's intelligent for us to have insurance. And like the whole essence of intelligent ain't even being practiced in that reality, or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? Where actual reality is letting you know what is the reason that you involved in these things in the first place. Here's the thing. I'm not saying don't drive or whatever the case may be, but having this awareness by default from a simultaneous level, you're looking at from that level. You make better decisions when it leads into doing things in moderation. So you end up being in a position of not being on the road just to be on the road, not taking certain roads when you have to be on the road or out for your necessities of having a job or whatever, or the things you're entertained by or whatever the case may be will have you go on the road to do these things based upon being entertained by things that the average distracted person is not entertained by. So 8 times out of 10, the time or the direction and the road that you on ain't the place where a lot of other people going get ready to crash out at, or whatever the case may be, because you're in a different time and a different situation where most distracted people are not even invested or entertained by to even be bothering you, or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? It's like a whole different spiritual concept that we ain't got no words for, that you're already doing these things before it becomes into the physical, and then you just all lost into the world thinking what you're doing and thinking what you're not doing. But damn, I ain't know we're already happen. I love all y'all from the bottom of my heart. Flight Boss Big, you know. But show, you're not listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon. I'm the Royal Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and responsibilities. He right to swallow, hold that yellow, ooh, Massasoit, Mama Natoy, Masasaki, Woo.